Imagine a poker player who storms back to the table, slams down his chips, and declares he's changing the rules. That encapsulates President Trump's renewed trade offensive, with sweeping new tariffs on steel, aluminum, cars, and a 10% blanket tariff on nearly all imports. He promised to bring America roaring back. He called it Liberation Day. But here's the question: liberated from what exactly? Since the start of Trump's second term, the U.S. has launched a full-scale tariff blitz, targeting not just rivals, but long-standing allies. It's been billed as a strategy to force better trade deals. But as of May 2025, with the dust far from settled, the results speak for themselves, and not in the way the administration had hoped. Liberation Day, a new trade era. On April 2, 2025, President Trump declared Liberation Day, unveiling a two-tier tariff structure. A baseline 10% tariff applied universally to imports from all countries, and additional country-specific reciprocal tariffs based on what the administration deemed unfair trade practices by approximately 60 individual nations. This move was framed as a declaration of economic independence, aiming to rectify a $1.2 trillion trade deficit. The tariffs were set to begin on April 5, with higher country-specific rates commencing on April 9. The administration invoked the International Emergency Economic Powers Act, IEEPA, to justify these measures, citing a national emergency due to the persistent trade deficit. The strategy: tough talk, few deals. The administration's approach centered on imposing tariffs to coerce trading partners into more favorable agreements. However, as of May 2025, the results have been underwhelming. United Kingdom. A limited deal exempts some British-made cars and airplane parts from tariffs. However, a 10% general tariff on UK exports remains. Experts describe this as a very small win that fails to address broader trade issues. Canada and Mexico. In March, the U.S. imposed 25% tariffs on most imports from these neighbors, sparking a trade war. Canada retaliated with equivalent tariffs, and Mexico is preparing its response. Negotiations are ongoing, but tensions remain high. European Union. Talks have stalled, with the EU threatening 25% tariffs on $23.8 billion of U.S. goods if no progress is made. Japan and South Korea. Early dialogues have begun, but no agreements are in sight. South Korea's upcoming elections may delay any potential deals. China. A fragile consensus amid strategic maneuvering. In a significant development, the United States and China have agreed to a 90-day truce in their ongoing trade war. Following negotiations in Geneva, this agreement entails a substantial rollback of tariffs. The U.S. will reduce its tariffs on Chinese goods from 145% to 30%, while China will lower its tariffs on U.S. goods from 125% to 10%. The truce also includes the suspension or cancellation of 91% of the tariffs and halting an additional 24% for 90 days, aiming to prevent a total trade blockade and foster balanced trade between the two largest economies. Despite this de-escalation, tariffs remain higher than pre-trade war levels, and the long-term outcome of the talks is uncertain. Both nations have agreed to establish a framework for continued negotiations, with future meetings planned to address unresolved issues. While markets responded positively to the news, analysts caution that the high tariffs still in place could constrain global trade and investment if a comprehensive agreement isn't reached within the 90-day window. China's Commerce Ministry emphasized the need for ending unilateral U.S. tariff hikes and expressed hope for enhanced global economic stability. The ministry stated that the agreement aligns with the expectations of producers and consumers in both countries and serves the interests of both nations as well as the common interests of the world. While the recent U.S.-China consensus marks a step toward de-escalation, the path to a comprehensive and lasting trade agreement remains uncertain. The coming weeks will be critical in determining whether this framework can lead to substantive resolutions or if it merely serves as a temporary pause in ongoing economic tensions. In parallel with these negotiations, China has been actively strengthening its trade relations with other major economies. Recent engagements with the European Union have focused on enhancing cooperation in digital standards and supply chain resilience. Additionally, China has deepened ties with Japan and Southeast Asian nations through ASEAN+3 meetings, promoting yuan-based trade settlements and expanding infrastructure investments under the Belt and Road Initiative. Furthermore, China has been advancing its role within the BRICS bloc, with the new development bank announcing new funding packages for projects in member countries denominated in local currencies. Discussions around a BRICS digital currency, tentatively named BRICoin, have also resumed, indicating China's commitment to offering alternatives to Western-dominated financial systems. While the recent US-China consensus marks a step toward de-escalation, the path to a comprehensive and lasting trade agreement remains uncertain. The coming weeks will be critical in determining whether this framework can lead to substantive resolutions or if it merely serves as a temporary pause in ongoing economic tensions. Domestic impact, inflation and uncertainty. The tariffs have led to increased costs for U.S. consumers and businesses. According to the Center for American Progress, companies are already transferring costs to consumers, potentially increasing household expenses by up to $5,200 annually. The Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development, OECD, reported that President Trump's tariff policies are slowing economic growth in the United States and around the world while sending prices higher again, creating a toxic stew for the global economy. Expert opinions, skepticism abounds. Trade analysts have expressed concern over the administration's strategy. The head of the Congressional Budget Office, Philip Swagel, warned that the turbulence triggered by President Donald Trump's trade tariffs could mark a tipping point in foreign investors' willingness to hold U.S. assets. The art of no deal. The art of the deal was supposed to bring prosperity through better trade terms. Instead, we've seen increased tariffs, strained alliances, and minimal tangible gains. As global markets react and domestic industries feel the pressure, one has to ask, is this strategy sustainable? In the complex game of international trade, bold moves must be matched with strategic wins. So far, the U.S. has played hardball, but at what cost? If you found this breakdown helpful, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell so you don't miss our next deep dive into the forces shaping our world.